It was about a year ago that I saw the release trailer for Lightyear Frontier, and I was immediately interested in the concept. Its colorful appearance, the prospect of exploring an unknown planet, creating our village and playing with other people in a peaceful environment are extremely tempting, but perhaps this quick entry into early access has shown some of its biggest shortcomings. I often think that what I would really like is that multiple survival/farming/crafting/building/PvE/PvP games didn't have the survival and PvP part. They would be much more interesting and fun for someone who no longer has time to be always online in these games. Lightyear Frontier does just that. There is no PvP component, but there is also no PvE either. We also don't have to worry about our food or drink, we simply survive, and that is clearly positive. That leaves building, farming, and exploration, which didn't seem enough to hold the game. We are part of a set of missions sent to distant planets that try to find out if they are habitable. Our mission is the third on the planet that fell upon us. We have a voice that speaks to us every morning, and as we explore and unlock more areas, this companion gives us insights into what happened in previous missions, what happened to the planet, and why they were unable to make it habitable. Although this story component seemed to me to be the biggest anchor of the entire game, the way the game was planned puts it almost in the background, when it should be the other way around, as it quickly became the only thing that kept me in the game. To find out what had happened on that planet. The music was excellently chosen and fits divinely into the calm and relaxed spirit of the game. Cozy games often fail miserably at this point, and fortunately this doesn't happen in Lightyear Frontier, where the calm sound accompanies us and helps us immerse at every moment. The cartoon-style graphics were one of the reasons it catch my eye in the first place. This style makes for excellent trailers, very beautiful, clearly demarcating the different biomes, areas, objects, and beings, instilling a very unique charm to each of the games. Obviously, I shouldn't let that fool me, but the eyes also eat, and, besides, we are inside a mecha. Imagine a farming game, but where we are a Craigslist version of Overwatch's Diva? Is there anything better for a farming game? Of course not. But it is almost from this moment onwards that everything starts to go downhill. The premise of this game is very environmentally friendly, or rather, there is an underlying environmentalist message, but clearly secondary to it, almost like a simple game mechanic. We have to clean the different biomes that we discover, removing toxic substances so that they become habitable again. In this pacifist world, not even these toxic substances cause us any harm. And this is where all the repetition begins to show. Each biome has more or less specific resources. Discovering biomes is very easy, and we have a map that tells us the resources available in them once we discover them. Most of these resources become available after we clean the biome. The game loop is essentially cleaning a biome to have access to its resources, using these resources to upgrade our tools so that we can then clean the next biome. And that's it. This simplicity exhausts Lightyear Frontier very quickly, as the game itself seems innocuous and without a practical purpose, which is why I mentioned that the underlying story was of great importance to me, but not enough to keep me playing the game longer. Each biome has a structure that we have to explore, discovering artifacts that are partially hidden. To do this we often have to leave our mecha and go on foot to explore. The reward for this exploration could also be explored further, perhaps with more story content, as it is clearly visible that these structures are linked to the past missions made to the planet, but the result is often mediocre. Mechanically there are interesting details. Our mecha moves in a moderately realistic way, but this makes it annoying the multiple times it falls since nothing dies in the game, nor is there any damage. It's just annoying to get out of the robot, flip it around and continue. Even the fact that we can play in first or third person is cool, but in third person mode it is more difficult to execute some actions, even though it is the only way to see our mecha. In first person perspective we don't see the mecha, but it is much more accurate to execute all actions. There's any way to have it all. I mention this because there are multiple customization options, and they have never caught my interest because I didn't like playing in third person. And even the beautiful images of our idyllic village, even if perfectly possible to achieve, are quickly relegated to the background. as in the desire to offer a glimpse of progression to the player, the devs made collecting anything a very tedious task, as by the third stick we are already over-encumbered and we have to move back and forth consecutively to gather a tiny amount of resources. This aspect alone immediately made me forget about building something beautiful. I just gave preference to efficiency. Although we don't have to eat in Lightyear Frontier, we can feed the animals and their nests. If we feed their nests, the resources of the biome where it is located regenerate more quickly. If we feed the animals individually, we have an immediate reward, since their poop is, apparently inappropriately, materials. In any case, the quantity doesn't make up for the time lost on doing it, and the animals on my planet had to content themselves with looking for their food. Nothing that bothered them, since they had also survived before I arrived and also had nothing else to do. The renewal of materials is made through a day and night cycle that seems to serve no purpose other than that, moving forward one day. Every new day a merchant arrives who buys and sells almost everything we need, but this aspect raises a lot of questions for the game itself and its objectives, so I will not talk about it in this preview. We can play in multiplayer, but perhaps because I was playing the Game Pass version for PC, I never found any open world, and I had my world open for several days so that someone could join, without that ever happening. Maybe the game it's not cross-platform. I don't know how to answer that, but, just in case, don't buy it just because you expect to play with strangers. Lightyear Frontier promised a lot, but what it showed is quite short for the world that was created and the message it wants to be conveyed. There are more games in which the game's focus seems to have been on the wrong element, some of them with much higher budgets, like Horizon Zero Dawn for example, but when they wanted to give us more game time within an extremely short loop, they opted for the shorter and easy route. They made the game repetitive and, ultimately, boring. I know that there is a roadmap ahead, but the core of the game, as it is, doesn't seem salvageable. See you next time. Bye!